Hey guys, welcome to the channel, welcome to my stream, and welcome to another chapter. I believe it's chapter 4 already. Working on that guy right there. That guy right there is our 1970 Dodge Charger. It's the Dukes of Hazzard General Lee, and it's a 1/16 scale. Nice big size car. We're gonna run the intro, and we'll get started. Okay, well, we're back, and you can see I'm still continuing on this thing. I've got a little bit of color on some stuff now. I did a little bit of painting off camera. We got our engine block painted orange, we've got transmission painted in some dark aluminum color, and we've got some aluminum bits, and we got carburetors painted, and we got some black engine accent accessories such as the oil pan and valve covers. They're painted black. Yeah, we got some stuff done. So we're going to continue on doing this, and as you could see, I'm right in the midst of getting a little piece of styrene to go into the section of the bell housing here where it's going to meet up with the engine block, and there's going to be a hole there, so I need to plug that hole. You got to plug your holes. You can't just leave your holes lying around everywhere for anybody to just put something in, right? So you got to plug them up. So, but before we go, I want to talk about, I painted the engine in nice Chrysler orange, Chrysler engine orange, and after priming it, I actually did the kit engine too. I figured, why not? You know, maybe I'll have this just sitting as a display item. Maybe I'm going to leave one of the valve covers off, because the kit comes with a valve train for the cylinder head, so I figured, why not, right? Why not display it? So, yeah, so I figured I'd paint the block since I had the paint and the airbrush anyway. And just for kicks, I painted the other engine block that I had 3D printed, although it's a little smaller. And I want to point something out to you guys. Some of you guys might say, why do you primer everything that you paint? I've been building models for years, and I've never had to primer anything, and my paint comes out looking fine. So why do you have to primer? Why do you guys who primer everything, why do you have to primer it? There's really no point, right? Some people have that argument. I'm going to show you an example of why I primered it. So here's our engine block, okay? Nothing special, it's just the engine block. And that's done in the Dodge orange, okay? And here's the engine block that I'm not using, and it's done in the same Dodge orange. Looks fine, right? This one has not been primered. I just painted it right over the gray resin, okay? No primer at all. And yes, the paint came out looking perfectly fine. No problem at all. But here's the problem. One is true to the actual orange color and one is not. Look at that. The one that has not been primered is much, much darker orange. They both have the same coats of paint on it. They both have like 3 coats of color. And yet, the one with the primer, the color pops. And the other one doesn't. Okay? So there you go. That's an example of why you should primer your stuff before you paint. That's just an example. The other thing is primer helps paint adhere to the product and all that stuff. So yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to show you guys. I was interested in when I was actually quite, like, oh wow, look at that. It doesn't cover completely. What this one covers, great. Anyway, just change the camera. You can see what I'm working on right now. Okay, I'll change my glasses while I'm at it too. Okay, so because the transmission is going to line up at the top here like this, it's going to line up like this, and we're going to have a big gap down there at the bottom. So I need to fill in that gap. So I'm going to put a piece of styrene, just one of these sheets, and I'm going to put it in here. I've got one that this was just a bit of extra one that I was sitting, but it's too small. I got a big gap, so that one's not going to be used. So I'm just getting this one trimmed up to fit in there. Once I've got it filed down nicely, and I'm happy with it and how it's going to fit, I'll glue it in. Even if it's a tight fit, that's okay. I think I'm almost there. Almost there. Of course, this side is not very flat on the inside of this bell housing, so that could be an issue too. You know, their mold just is not precise. I'm almost there. It's almost like I need to hold on to it like this, just to help me out pressing it in. I think if I get some glue on there, no I won't, because this side is a little funky too. I get it to the point where I can almost press it in, then just adding some glue will help it press into place. And I think that's where I'm at now. I think that's where I'm at. I can almost just press it in there. And so if I can press it in, what I can do is chamfer this edge. And chamfer this edge. Okay. Let's put a little glue on the inside of our bell housing here. Got my edges correct. And that's about perfect. Get that lined up so that it's flat on there. Even do that. I want it perfectly flat on this edge. I don't want it sticking out because the engine block is going flat against there. So that is just about perfect. There we go. Okay, so I'll just let the glue do its thing there, and I'll call that done for now. As you can see, we got our transmission painted. I painted it with my linkage on there, but that's good enough. Yeah. I also put a little bit of, took some Tamiya putty, and I made some little bit of extra stuff on the sides here where the bolts go in to give it that little extra molded in look. I'll have to repaint that putty, but just, I mean, you're not going to see it. Basically, you're going to look under the car, and that's the view you're going to have, something like this. You're not really going to see much. It's going to be, yeah, it's not something you're really going to focus on. But I did it just because I didn't want these bolts to be just sitting out, not bolted to anything. So, yeah, that's that. So let our transmission dry. Let that glue do its thing. I think we're ready to install a few more things onto our engine, which means we need some more CA glue. I got some leftover putty on my knife. That's okay. All right, let's grab my special little CA bucket and my bucket holder and get some CA glue. I poured a little too much into it last time, so let's try not to do that again today. There we go. That's plenty. And of course we're going to need my special CA applicator. That guy there. Okay, let's grab some parts. I could put my starter on. I have it painted black, but I really should paint this side the same color as the block, because it's going to sit like that. And that little section really should be on the floor. No, I'm kidding. Not on the floor. But I kind of was like, I don't know if I want to do the starter just yet. Let's grab some other engine parts. How about intake manifold? So it's kind of a debate. I looked at some pictures online of 446 packs and didn't really find any pictures online that have this part on the intake. At least nothing that I could really find myself. So I really have no idea what side of the engine that should go on. I don't know if it should go on the passenger side or the driver's side. I really don't know. So, and I don't think I'm going to have anything under the hood to put on it. So I think maybe I should just put like a mock-up plate kind of thing on it. Just a pretend little plate. You know what I mean? So let's try and make something up right now. Let's try and make something up. I'm going to grab my Sharpie and we'll see. Is this actually a perfect width for it? So that's perfect. I just need to try and get a similar shape. What's our width on this thing? Width is right about there. Okay, let's do a little cutting. Something like that. And then this, like that. Let's have a look. Where are my tweezers? Tweezers are hiding over here. That's not bad. I just need to duplicate it on the other side. That might work. It kind of looks like they've put a little steel plate on it of some sort to cover it up. Because, you know, Bo and Luke, they don't care so much about, you know, all that EGR system. I don't think there was such a thing in those days. Oh, I'm sure there was. Probably had to be. Okay, so we're going to put this on our intake and we'll paint it later. It's going to go right on top here. Really? Fortunately, my CA glue is thick enough that it doesn't dry instantly as soon as it takes hold, so it gives me a minute to fart around with it. There we go. So we got a little cover on there now. That's good enough. So passenger side, driver side, doesn't matter. So we're going to put our intake down and we're just going to line up our runners to our intake holes on the heads and go bing, and we'll get our intake installed. Let's put a little glue down on here. go. I think we got enough there. So, get this lined up. Right about there. Yep. There we go. Actually, I'm going to turn this around. See, another advantage to it not being exact. The reason why I decided the last second to turn it around, the intake has these bosses on here where I'm pointing with my finger, and it looks like that would be where you have throttle linkage mounted, and so that makes sense to me. There we go. Intake is installed. So what's next? Well, we have our crank pulley. Has been painted black. I've done all my pulleys in black, so I'm just going to make sure this fits in there, and that does. Goes all the way back. So, but what I want to do is I need to measure it against my alternator pulley and my water pump pulley and fan combination. And I have that somewhere. Where did I put my fan? I painted my fan and then I put it down somewhere. And that was about 12 hours ago. And now I don't know where the fan is. Oh, because it fell on the floor. It fell on the floor. So here's my fan and my water pump. Remember, I put these two together yesterday, or last time. Okay, now it's a nice shiny black. But when this guy gets put in here, it goes all the way back. Well, I need for our fan belt to work, I need our crankshaft to stick out and line up. Otherwise, I'll never have a fan belt lined up on there. Okay, and as you can see, it's a little bit loose in the fitting. I could actually have my thing crooked, and I don't want that. I don't want my thing crooked. That's for sure. So it's actually only going to be sticking in a little ways, just past right about there, okay, where my thumbnail is. So although it's sticking in this far, it's also sticking out that far. So let's put some glue on our pulley here. We're going to go all the way around with it. I want a good bond so that it stays. And I'm going to hold it in place until I feel the glue really wanting to grip it. And that worked out pretty good. There we go. Okay. As long as I don't bump it. I could try and add a little more glue. I can see the shaft on the inside here. So just to try and make this bond a little stronger, I'll add a little more glue on the inside there. There we go. That's pretty good. Okay, so now I know that it's lined up. That was my main thing, was getting that lined up in there. I'm just going to try and adjust this, make sure that's straight. Yes, okay. Let's pull that off of there. Pull that out. We're not ready for the fan just yet. We can do our oil filter. Oil filter goes on there. I painted that white. Typical white oil filter. Let's get that off of my masking tape. We can install that. I might have a decal I could use for the oil filter. I don't know. I have to look at my stash of decals to see whether I've got one or not. Get her lined up. Oil filter's on there. Okay. She's not perfectly straight, and that's kind of because of our mounter or adapter, but she's straight on, and when you're looking down from the top of the hood, yeah, it's good enough. Good enough. Okay. Alternator and pulley. Our alternator is here, and I did the bracket in aluminum also. We could do it in black, but I chose aluminum. He's going to go on like this. So we've got his 3 little mounting points. Let's actually put the dabs on these points here. Okay, and looking from overhead, we'll line them up. We actually have 4 points. Not only those little protrusions, but this one little bolt head right here. I want to kind of lined up and then hold it there. Let's see what happens when I let go. Nothing. Yay. And that's what I love about CA glue. Alternators installed. Now I want to let that cure before I start trying to put the pulley in there, because my CA glue doesn't work all that fast, you know what I mean? So we're going to let that dry. Now the oil pan and our valve covers. Oil pan, like I mentioned before, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to use this oil pan with the sump on it. Let's get it off of there. This oil pan here. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to use that one. Just because I'm not sure. I haven't looked in the instructions and as far as if we've got any cross members that go across here or anything like that. So let's just take a quick little gander through our instruction manual and see if there is anything that goes across underneath. Nothing there. In step 4, 5. Now we switch to the rear suspension. Looks like we've got a sway bar on the front that goes across the front here. We've got our steering linkage that goes across on there, but that's nothing. Steering linkage won't get interfered with by the oil pan, at least I don't think so. Then we move to the interior, the roll bar, the roll cage, I mean, and then suddenly we're on the engine. Engine, and then installing the engine. It's pretty cool they even give you the firing order for the Hemi engine. That's pretty cool. And then that's it. So they're not showing. So the only bar that goes across is our steering linkage. So it's only the steering linkage that could potentially be any problem, and that's this guy right here. Our steering does have a little bit of a little, I don't know, a whoop-de-doo in it. So this guy would say go like this and like that. It's not the most precise fit, is it? It's tight. Let's just say that. Tight fit. Put this on here. Squeeze that together. There we go. Okay. There. So there's our steering. It's tight. It's such a tight fit. My wheels won't steer. Okay. So that is that. And I think actually I've got the steering. Well, I've got the steering in the way that they're supposed to, but this is going up. And I don't think it's supposed to go up. I think it's supposed to go down. So now that I have kind of forced that on there, okay, actually wasn't too bad in getting it undone. Let's see if I could flip it over. I don't even know if this is going to interfere with the oil pan at all. Right? It's really, I don't know. I'm just kind of anticipating. Okay, so now we've got the little bend in it. The bend in it now is facing downwards instead of up. And yeah, the detail doesn't look quite as nice. Our engine is going to sit in here like this. And I actually don't think I'm going to have an issue with the oil pan. That'll be like that. And this will sit roughly like this. Oh, it will be an issue. Let me see how the kit engine is supposed to sit in there. Because we actually have mounting points here to line it up. So it is supposed to sit like this. So that gives me an idea of exactly how far forward the engine's supposed to sit. We got all kinds of weird flashing going on our mounting points here. So these mounts don't fit in the hole. Okay. Let's clean those up a bit so they could go in the holes that they're supposed to go in. There we go. Okay. So that's where the kit engine sits. Sits right there. Okay. And then you'd have your nice little dry sump oil pan mounted in like that. And of course, yeah, the engine's going to sit at a little bit of an angle downwards, and your oil pan is kind of, well, perfectly flat like that. The only way I could get away with it with this pan is to have the sump in the front, but even then, it's still, well, if I tried to steer, this goes forward, so yeah, that's no good. Alternatively, what if I had this turned around? That's a possibility. You know, normally I don't bring you guys along on my little adventures of test fitting. I usually bring you along once I've done all this stuff. Let's just see if this would work. Turn this around. This might not work. It might hit. It works, and I still get steering. We still have functional steering, but now this is sitting forward. If I put this engine in like this and put the pan in, look at that. She fits. She'll work. That'll work, guys. That's gonna work. Look at that. We got my resin oil pan there, and our steering arm clears. Yeah, she might not be correct. I don't even know. But she's gonna work. So I can put the oil pan on. Yay, yay, yay. Oil pan's going on, guys. Oil pan's gonna go on, bing, just like that. I love how they have the detail of the main cap for the crank in there. All right. Oil pan installed. Let's make sure she's centered, and yay. Just like that. There we go. Oil pan's in. All right. Now, valve covers. I'm still going to do the silver detail on top of the valve covers. I want to do that still, but I can do that after they're installed. So let's get those installed. Let's get this guy in. Press it down on there. Looks good. All right, there's one. There's one installed, one valve cover. Press it down a little bit, yeah. Second valve cover installed. So there we go. Our engine is starting to look like a completed engine here almost. We're getting there. We're getting there, guys. Finally. All right. I don't need this chrome. Don't need that chrome one. I'll put the chrome one on the kit engine. The other thing I'm not going to do is utilize our big plate. The plate is I'm going to put the plate on our other engine here. He can go and get installed on there. However he goes. He doesn't want to fit. There you go. Sits like that. He doesn't really want to fit because, well, the engine is not exactly a precision mold, and we don't exactly have it all perfectly straight. That's just the way the kit engine is. And the case in point, the big gap between the cylinder head and the block, right? This side's not as bad, but you get a big gap in there. It's just not a precise mold, you know. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. Okay. Anything else I can put on there today? I'd like to put our distributor in, but I got to run the wires on the distributor first. And it's nice that it's hollowed out already. It was printed like that, so I don't have to worry about trying to drill that out. That's really nice. That's nice that I don't have to do that. I think that's really all I can do. I don't want to put the carbs on yet. I could put the carbs on, but then they become a liability if I put them on now. And I don't want to do that. So that's going to be it for the engine, at least for now. We're going to let that all dry and harden up nicely before I really start farting around with it anymore. I like to take a Q-tip and I like to soak up the remainder of my CA glue, because if I leave it as a little puddle in here, it takes so long for it to really dry. So I like to just soak up the excess so that it dries quicker in here, and then I can reuse it later. And that's what I do that for. Okay, I'll put this aside. So I was looking at this thing and I decided I want to get the rear end, the rear differential, I want to get that assembled today. At least the two halves, right? We have our rear diff in here somewhere. At some point we're supposed to assemble the rear diff. Remember, we got to step 6 and we put that little crossbar in there, and I got our resin fuel tank put in, and that was it. And that's really all we got to do. So we've got other pieces that are supposed to go in here, and then we've got our diff. Now I primered the diff, I primered a bunch of things, but this is all going to be black, so I want to get this kind of at least partially assembled. Okay, so let's get our two diff halves and get our leaf springs and stuff like that. That's on this sprue over here. So let's get our rear end out of here. What do you guys think? You think this is a Dana 60 rear end? I really don't know. I have no idea. Now, I gotta pay attention here, see if there's lefts and rights. Number 142 is supposed to be, if it's going across the top, it is on the left. So, let's put it over here on the left. And 143 goes on the right. So it can go on the right. And then we got our two little, I don't know what's they are, 144 and 145. This one is 144. It's hard to get at. Here we go. 144 right there. And 145 goes on this one. Okay. So there's our pieces. Let's see how well this goes together. It looks like we're going to go like this. I might wind up having to do some putty. I might have to get rid of pins. I might have to do that to get rid of seam lines, shave this down, you know, all that kind of stuff. And that's why I wanted to get these put together now before I actually paint the thing black, because it's all going to be black, and so, and maybe even a gloss black. I don't know. I don't see Bo and Luke going to any trouble to make the rear end in the General Lee look pretty. You know what I mean? So probably a good primer black is probably going to be good enough for a nice realistic look on this. So go across this side also. Got a nub mark I'm going to have to clean up, but I'll do that later. For now, it's just get these two halves put together. Alright, so they show it this sitting in this position, and of course I've got my clamps on there now, so let's move my clamps over a little bit. Actually, let's see, can I put them on the very end? Yep, that works. I could do a bigger clamps, but these will work. Okay, so we take this rear end, this leaf spring, we got a big seam, parting seam going across there, so let's just clean that off. Find my file here. Let's clean up this parting seam. Leaf spring should not have parting seams. We've got some flashing on there too. Nub mark. So yeah, oh, that's too bad. Okay, so this guy, he's supposed to go, this guy's supposed to go like that, and this guy goes on top of it. And they show the little notch. He goes like this. And just sits in there like that. And nothing really special, just sits like that. It's okay. I think I'll put him on there now before we do any mounting on the actual differential housing. Diff housing, how about that? Call it the diff housing. Okay, so he's like that. I think I got it the right way. He's going to go like this with that short end on this side, and he's like this. That's what I think he's supposed to be like. There we go. I have a feeling the shocks are supposed to go on either side of this guy. That's what they are. They're shocks. That's shock mounts. Okay, let's put him aside and work on this other leaf spring here, because he's doing the same thing. He is just looking like all sorts of weird because of his parting lines. The ejector pin mark on this one is a dimple. It's not a stub. So with that guy like this and this like this, wrong way, like this, he sits like that. Got a bunch of this, this, and that. There we go. Okay, and that's that leaf spring. So our diff should be, the glue should be holding it good enough now. And he goes flip to this side where we've got some holes. We'll see how accurate the holes are. Do the pegs fit in the holes? Or am I drilling out some holes? I'm going to say they don't fit the holes. So I'm drilling out the holes. I got to drill these holes out. Make them a little bigger here. I think really the trick is to get these, make these holes round. There we go. We've got some nice big round holes now for those mounts to mount in. Now it fits. It goes in there, but the curvature of this hole is not the great. The other thing I don't like is we're relying on this thing to keep it, to keep our leaf springs aligned. That sits a lot better, but we're relying on that little peg to hold these things in line. I don't like that really, but it is what it is. It sits like that. That's the way it's supposed to go. So we'll do it, I guess. Put some glue there. She doesn't want to hold. Let's put some more glue. Let's put some glue all out of here. Now she's holding. So just the curvature of it and the fact that, yeah, the fact that we don't have a proper curvature makes it not sit down all the way. So I need to actually chamfer this hole, make this hole a little bit angled to match the curve of the actual axle. Oh, that's much better. Let's get some glue on that. The trick is getting the curve in our little mount to match the actual tube of the axle. That is the trick, guys. But we got that now, and now it looks like that. Right? Okay. Let's test fit this side. This side has a similar problem. So, ever so gently, let's see. When I put my file in there, I don't have it straight up. I'm doing it that angle like that to give that edge a little bit of a curve, because that's what the problem is here. We need to chamfer that edge a little bit and get that a bit of a curve. You see, basically, so the way this lines up, each side of this little block, this side, this edge, and this edge, those two edges on each side, they wrap around and they hit the edges of these U-bolts right there and right there. Okay, and they come down and they sit, and these U-bolts lock it in to give you the proper angle that it's supposed to be at. But the curvature needs to match the actual axle, otherwise you can't press it down far enough for it to do what it wants to do, and that's line up on those U-bolts. So now I've got that curvature matched up. Now it'll fit on there. There we go. Okay. My little bracket needs a little love. There we go. Let's get her lined up now. Okay, there we go. We've got our leaf springs installed, and I need to set this down and just let it dry. Set it and forget it. That's what I need to do right now. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to put it on a clip. Let's put it on a clip here. Let's do that. Okay. And I'll just let it sit like this. Sit it straight up and just leave it like this and let that glue dry. Let's put it in a little thing. Where's my thing? I want to put it in my thing. Let's put it in this one of these. Bingo. Yay. Done. Let's put this aside. Okay. With that done, there's really nothing else I could do. I gotta let that all dry and that's gotta cure. I think probably what I could do is in the chassis, we have our little links that are supposed to go back here. Part number 2, 33, 34, and 35, and 32. They have asterisks on them, which means they're chrome. Let's find those. Chrome. I'm looking for 4 little things that look like brackets. And I don't see them. They look, asterisk usually means they're chrome, right? Just like it was here. So what am I missing? Oh, here they are. They're much bigger than I thought they were. Okay, so number 233 goes with 234. So which one is which here? 233 is this one. And that goes with 234, which is this one. It's kind of hard to get in there. There we go. Okay, so what are we supposed to do with this? These two are supposed to go together. Go on that peg. And there's a little pin, or is that just flashing? I think that's just flashing. I think it was just flashing. I could have been totally wrong. It's an ejector pin. It's flashing on an ejector pin, that's what that is. So this guy's going to go in, and they show it just going like that, and it's supposed to basically form a U. And that's it. So I'm gonna have, that means that's gonna go in there, or maybe it goes in on this side. It's kind of hard to determine which side it goes in, but I think it goes in like this. I'm gonna have to drill out this hole, maybe to this size, probably bigger, to fit that pin. There we go. So what I'm going to have to do is, this is going to go together basically like this. Okay, the little bracket's got to go together like that. But I'm going to have to take the chrome off of this edge here, and I'll take the chrome off of that pin. It doesn't want to focus because it's trying to focus on the page. So the pin and that little block, that's got to get the chrome off of there. And then I can glue them together. And then I can do that to the other one. And then those are going to go onto the chassis on these two little raised spots here and here at the back. Okay, and that's where those are going to go. I don't see a pin. I don't see a pin to guide them on where they're supposed to go, unless it wound up getting cut off when I took it off the sprue. It's possible, but they've not given me any oh yes, when you look at the sprue on the other side, there is a pin, and I did cut it off. I wound up cutting it off when I took it off the sprue. That happens. Anyway, that's really all I can do for today. I gotta let the rear end dry. I don't really want to mess around with this until I've really let that glue cured and that kind of stuff. So that's where I'm going to leave it for today, guys. That's going to be it for now. So I want to thank you for watching. Thanks for joining me on this. And if you've suffered this far through it in this video, then thank you again. And I really appreciate that. And I'd also really appreciate it if you leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this stuff. And hit the like button too, and subscribe if you haven't already. That would be cool too. Help out my channel, please. Yeah. Thank you very much, guys. And we'll see you all in the next one.